India Foundation. You know, Ram Madhavji was been basically inspiration behind our FIIDS itself, and we have active coordination with Foundation for India. So he is one of the director of Foundation of India. So Foundation of India has established one of the leading think tank in India, working on various aspects. One aspect is that it hosts counter-terrorism conference every year, Jaipur, and now probably it is going to be Gurgaon this year. We also have from last couple of years Indian Ocean Rim related conference, bringing the countries which are around the Indian nation, Indian Ocean to last year it was a couple of years back it was in Singapore, but it was forming a broader alliance of the different countries. So that was another initiative. Then it also hosts India Idea Conclave. So that is annual conference where leading think tanks and experts from India and all over the world. So that's the third initiative. And on ongoing basis, India Foundation engages the platform. And Alok Konsalji, his background is very impressive. He is coming from Navy. He was a captain there. He worked almost 32 years. Afterwards, he was involved in various strategic initiatives and think tanks. He was 5 years. He worked in IDSA. IDSA is India's leading defense think tank. So he was there, and then later on, various strategic initiatives related to Afghanistan, Pakistan. He is involved. He wrote many books. One of them is on Balochistan and Pakistan. And one of the studies that he has is that how the different fault lines in Pakistan are surfacing, and also the terrorism. And he is very active. He's not just the observer, but he is also actively engaged into shaping the policies and the dialogue. So that's very good to have a person who is hands-on dealing with this aspect of it. We have Ahmar Mustikhan. So he's all of us who are from the Virginia, Washington DC are familiar with his work, and he's one of the most, we can say, the brave soldier of leader of the Balochistan movement. Because it's very few people can think about or talk about and of the people take us. He has consistently taken the stands and he's not only the leader, but he is actually a very like a lead front and center of the movement. So he's every day, if you can look at, he has some activities going on various issues that he is very upfront, and he's a great friend of India. Just recently when this I think I'll wrap up that, but he's also a commentator, appears in television, also give congressional hearing. He gave the representation of the issue of the Balochistan. He articulated very well. He's a blogger, a journalist, so good to have Ahmad today on our platform. We have Shakti Munshi. Okay. So we have Shakti Munshi and we'll have Dr. Vijay Rajan. We have two sessions, right? First session will be two speakers. We'll not have a probably gap or rest of the time we'll decide. And then second session we'll have two speakers. The first session is much more international in nature. The second session is much more Kashmir focused session. And the first session we have Alokji and Ahmar, so they will be speaking mostly on the Pakistan, the terrorism background, human rights violation, particularly Balochistan, and others. And so on the background of the CPEC, which is the China's initiative, is in the investment. One is CPEC and another is water port, and how there are various implications of that. So this is a broader topic. So without taking more time, first thing that I would request Alokji to talk about, and then followed by Amar, and then we can have the questions. If you have questions, Parag supplies here, so he can get the questions. Then it is up to him whether we want to directly ask the questions or you can take the kind of a judgment based on how it goes.
Thank Thank you, Khanderji. I think it's an honor to be here with you all. And the subject that I would be discussing is as screened. I'm actually carrying a PowerPoint primarily because somebody said that a picture is worth 1,000 words. So certain pictures remain registered. I'm just talking about fault lines in Pakistan. And of course, I'm humbled by the fact that I'm sitting next to an iconic figure, Ahmarji, and talking about fault lines in Pakistan. But I just want to show some pictures before actually I talk about it. This actually depicts Pakistan. This is, of course, one picture. You can see something. This is in his place. These are all in last 1 year. Some pictures for you to see. This is Faizabad sit-in. This is between Rawalpindi and Islamabad, where actually the traffic was kept held on because certain people felt that the law minister of Pakistan should resign because he had actually maliciously inserted a clause whereby Ahmadiyas were required not to give an affidavit but just to make a declaration that they believe in the finality of Prophet Muhammad. And why it was done, of course, we could take it on later because there's a perception that the army chief of Pakistan today is actually a closeted Ahmadiyya, and that's where I think the battle was being fought between army and the political establishment. This is again a very interesting picture. This is actually a cricket match being played in Miramshah, which is the capital of North Waziristan Agency, where Zarbe operation was going on. What's important is it's a cricket match being played. You have an inset, DGI's PR, you can see that. But what is even more important is the backdrop. You have only two photos on that back. One is Muhammad Ali Jinnah and other is the army chief. That actually shows where the power lies within Pakistan actually. That's what is a very, very clear instruction. It's a match being played in an agency which is trouble prone and there are only two figures. That shows where it is. Of course, another thing is this is again a puritanical spirit of Pakistani regime. You can see what's happening. This is again another interesting thing. Today, since Pakistan was created for the Muslims of the subcontinent, the situation is such that even when you're praying, you have to have armed guards actually guarding you. Why we'll come to it, I can cover it in a little more time. These are just pictures to give you some idea. Now, this is again a very interesting thing. This has been happening. You know what's happening. In fact, this is Ravita Medwar who was kidnapped. We have had past cases like Rinkal Kumari and issues like that which have been happening. Another picture. Radicalization. This gentleman was killed in campus within Peshawar University for alleged blasphemy. This is again an issue. Why these pictures? Because these pictures actually tell a story by themselves. Actually, that's why I'm trying to project these pictures. This is, of course, the census, the elusive census which Pakistan finally had this year. Even then, the full figures have not been made public. We don't have census figures for the Baltistan of Pakistan occupied Jammu. We don't have the minorities figures and things like that. Census teams were attacked. You can see census teams being escorted by armed gunmen. Having said this, Pakistan, right from its creation, has had certain fault lines. And to my mind, the fault lines, which I perceive, there may be more. I perceive four major fault lines. One is sectarianism, one is economic, third is ethnic, and fourth is Talibanization or radicalization. That's how I perceive it. They've all existed right at the time Pakistan came to be. All have their genesis in the two-nation theory. All are interrelated. Of course, sitting next to Ahmar, I won't be delving on all of them because I feel there are people who can delve. But one or two of them I will probably cover. And one of them is, of course, the sectarianism. I need to say. Because when you create a nation state premised on the belief that Muslims of the subcontinent are a separate nation, the first logical question that comes to mind is who's a Muslim? And Pakistan was beset with this problem as early as 1953. As you know, in 1953, Pakistan had anti-Ahmadiyya riots, and two serving majors of army were lynched to death. The city of Lahore was placed under martial law, and Lieutenant General Azam Khan became the chief martial law administrator. Actually, Pakistan's tryst with military rule started with that martial law in Lahore. But for the purpose of my subject, what is important is that after that martial law was established, a judicial commission was constituted to decide whether Ahmadiyyas are Muslims or not. That commission was called Munir Kayani Commission. Justice Munir and Justice Kayani, two judges had it written, but Justice Munir subsequently became the Chief Justice of Pakistan. and came the infamous doctrine of necessity with justified military coups. But in this particular judgment, the commission sat for over 300 days and gave a fantastic judgment, which is called Munir Kayani Commission Report. It's available online. Anybody who's interested in Pakistan must read it. It says that we interviewed 23 sets of ulema and we asked, who is a Muslim? And he says, if we accept the definition as given by one set of ulema, we'll have to declare all other 22, including ourselves, as non-Muslims. Since there is no unanimity on who is a Muslim, this commission is not in a position to decide whether Ahmadis are Muslims or non-Muslims. And it remained like that. But post-71, the sectarian fault lines in Pakistan exacerbated. Now somebody will say, why post-71? Because Bangladesh was created. And somebody will say, what has Bangladesh got to do with sectarian fault? You need to understand that the two-nation theory was a theory of exclusion. We are separate. Now, any theory of exclusion requires a reference point of hate. And that in the Pakistan movement was the Hindu majority. If you read Mr. Jinnah's argument, he says we will not be able to practice our religion, we will not be able to practice our culture in a unified India. Even after Pakistan came into being, the ills that plagued Pakistan were blamed onto the Hindu minority. So much so that Bangladesh movement was blamed onto the corrupting influence of the Hindu Bengali. But post-71, the number of minorities in Pakistan reduced to such an insignificant level that you could not realistically attribute blame onto them. So new villains had to be created. And those villains had to be created within the fold of Islam. And the first, of course, major impact was in 74, where Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, the supposedly secular leader, used takfir to push Ahmadiyyas outside the fold of Islam. Takfir in Islamic lexicon is a term used to push somebody who calls himself Muslim outside the fold of Islam. It was used by Ibn Taymiyyah against Mongol rulers in Baghdad who had embraced Islam but were continuing to govern according to Mongolian Asa code rather than Sharia. And Ibn Taymiyyah said that just because they've embraced Islam does not make them a righteous ruler, and revolt against them is justified to push them. Since then, thousands of clerics have used takfir to push people outside the fold of Islam. But this is probably the only and the first, certainly, occasion when a modern nation stood using constitutional means has pushed the community outside fold of Islam. Ahmadiyyas were pushed outside the fold of Islam, and of course, after Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, we had Ziaul Haq who came to power and he said Ahmadiyyas can't call themselves Muslims, they can't have Quranic inscriptions, their place of worship cannot be called mosque. It became a cognizable offense for Ahmadiyya to actually behave like a Muslim. And today the situation of Ahmadiyyas is pretty bad. I won't go into those details, but that's how it is. And from that time onwards, the sectarian differences have got further exacerbated. Now, Ziaul Haq, actually, as you know, was a military dictator and he lacked legitimacy. So he tried to legitimize his rule by seeping his rule into Islamic lexicon, Islamic symbolism. In fact, the plebiscite that he had was a very, very interesting figure where you want to continue to be governed according to Islamic laws, etc., and said that people are opposing. But in his great zeal to Islamize, he actually introduced a resolution where he said zakat would be deducted centrally. Zakat, as you know, is one of the 5 pillars of Islam, whereby people are expected to contribute in charity for those who. And he says in the month of Ramadan, all bank managers would deduct a certain percentage from all Muslim account holders and deposit in the central zakat fund. By this time, there had been a Shia revolution and Shias protested en masse, saying that this is against our faith. We call it khums, and we will decide who will do it. And in that protest, for the first time, Zia had to backtrack, and he says, yes, if a Muslim account holder says that he is Shia, zakat would not be deducted. So this actually led to 2 important developments. Firstly, it led to an identity formation, because you don't have a census based on whether you're Shia or Sunni. And second is in South Asia, nobody wants to pay the government. So people with marginal orientation overnight became Shias. So there was now a document which told you who is a Shia, howsoever little it was. And from that time onwards, there has been further development, because when you start dividing, it's not only Shias who are fighting with Sunnis, within the fold of Sunni Islam, you have Deobandis fighting with Bareilwi, within Shia Islam, Ithnai Sharis or the Khalwar Shias considers Ismailis or Daudi Bohras as apostates, and that divisions continue within. That's how it happens. Well, as I said, sectarianism is, of course, a natural corollary. In fact, what all is there, I have already said. So, what is the dynamics of the sectarian violence? I just wanted to cover for a minute, in fact, before I moved into the other issue. What is important is that what is the percentage of Shias in Pakistan? Now, this is actually a very debatable question, because if you go to some Sunni websites, they'll say 7%, some say 8%. You go to Shia websites, they claim 30%. My assessment is it would be realistic to assume that every fifth Muslim in Pakistan is a Shia. And Shias are socio-economically better off. Muhammad Ali Jinnah, who many people in India said he did not believe in religion, he was secular and all those things, incidentally was born as Smiley, converted to 12er Shia or Ithna Shia. That is, from Smiley faith, he converted to 12er Shia faith. And this is because this bill was contested. It's a court's judgment which I am telling you. I'm not trying to create a statement out of the blue. He was a 12er Shia. His successor, Khwaja Nazimuddin, was a Shia. Muhammad Ali was a Shia. First president of Pakistan, General Iskandar Mirza, was a Shia. And when Ayub Khan captured power, his commander-in-chief, General Musa Khan, was Shia. His successor, General Yahya Khan, was Shia. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto was Shia. Benazir Bhutto was Shia. And so is Asif Ali Zardari. So Shias have had disproportionately larger share of political power. In fact, in the last regime, not only Asif Ali Zardari was a Shia, Senate chairperson as well as National Assembly speaker, both were Shias. So that has been the case. So Shias are also, many of the top doctors, top lawyers, top media personalities are Shias. So what happens is the Sunni sectarian outfits generally target those Shias who, because of their eminence, are known to be Shias. So if you're a bar association president, everybody knows that you are a Shia. If you're a top ophthalmologist of Lahore, everybody knows that you're a Shia. So top ophthalmologist of Lahore was shot dead when he had gone to drop his son to the school. Bar association president of Karachi was shot dead when he was actually going there. So those people are. And when these targeted individuals are taken to hospitals or graveyards, that place have also been targeted under the premise that the atmosphere would be so surcharged that the people accompanying them would belong to their faith, because in that charged atmosphere, people cutting across sectarian divide would not like to. The third target has been religious places, of course, which is the first target, that you go to target Shia Imam Badas, you target Shia procession. Shias take out distinctive processions, Ashura procession, Chelham procession, Imam Ali's, Imam Hussein's Chelham processions, etc. They have been targeted. Similarly, Shias also go for ziyarat. In Shia Islam, it is as important, if not more, to go for Hajj as is to go for ziyarat to Karbala and Najaf. In fact, the clay of Karbala is supposed to be the ultimate salvation as far as Shia Muslims is concerned. So, large number of Shias from Pakistan go to Iraq. Not everybody goes by flight. A large number of them go over land. They go by buses, they cross over to Iran, and these buses have actually been attacked by terrorists. The Shia retaliation, on the other hand, has been restricted. It's been generally restricted to those outfits which are espousing hate against them, and that's been the case. This is by and large the consensus. There are certain exceptions. For paucity of time, I won't go into that. One is Hazaras, which is actually a community which is Mongoloid and lives in a central part of Afghanistan and Hazara. Large number of them have migrated to Quetta. About 5 lakh Hazaras live in Quetta city, in two distinctive localities, Alamdar Road and Hazara Town, and they have been targeted on and off, because unlike an ordinary Pakistani, you can identify who's a Hazara, and Hazaras are Shia, so they have been targeted. You identify in Shia. Similarly, those places where Shias are in majority, there have been pitched battles. And in Pakistani context, there are only two places where Shias are in clear majority. One is Parchinar and Paran Agency, and the other is Gilgit-Baltistan in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. So these are the areas. Then Karachi is actually where bulk of the retaliation takes place. So what is important is the Taliban, after controlling Afghanistan-Pakistan border, once they moved into Punjab and Sindh, they've aligned themselves with Sunni sectarian outfits. And as a result, all the attacks carried out by Taliban in Punjab and Sindh, other than the security forces, have been at sectarian minorities. Be it Shias, be it Ahmadiyas, be it even Sufi Barelvi shrines, like large number of shrines. This is not only Taliban, but even Islamic State when I'm talking about. But as I said, in Pakistani context, it's not a contest between only Shias and Sunnis. Within the fold of Sunni Islam, you have Deobandis fighting with Barelvis. On Miladun Nabi Day, which is the birthday of the Holy Prophet, most of Pakistan goes without mobile services, because mobiles used to mobilize people to say that it is shirk to celebrate Milad procession, because as you know, Barelvis take out huge processions on Milad, and Deobandis and Wahhabis believe that it is shirk. There have been firings on Milad processions from Wahhabi mosques. Similarly, every major Sufi shrine in Pakistan has been targeted. Be it Ganj Data Baksh in Lahore, Rahman Baba in Peshawar, or Interior Sindh, or everything, or anything. And similarly, within the fold of Shia Islam, you have Ismailis, Dawoodi Bohras, which have been targeted, which have been had. Then in Pakistan's case, you have certain sects which can't neither be termed as Shia Sunnis. One is, of course, Ahmadiyya. As I told you, their condition is the worst because they are virtually disenfranchised. Then you have Zikris who live in Gwadar, who don't go for Hajj, go for a ziyarat to Kohe Murad, and of course they are being targeted. Then you have Noor Bakshis who live in Gilgit, Baltistan, who also don't consider them when Shia Sunni. I don't want to, paucity of time, I won't go. What is important is that current global scenario where Shia-Sunni conflict has exacerbated because of Syria, Iraq, Yemen, etc. have had its impact. So anything that happens globally has a reverberation in Pakistan. So when Saudi Arabia sends troops to Bahrain, the Shias in Pakistan protest. Iranian consulate in Peshawar has been attacked, Saudi consulate in Karachi has been attacked. So these are all right. And what has happened is with the Zardaris going and Nawaz Sharif's or PMLN's coming, the Shia insecurities have risen because Sharifs have traditionally been seen to be very close to Sipahe Sahiba Pakistan or Sunni sectarian, and that's where I started. The other fault line is economic. I don't want to say because a lot of people believe that Pakistan is crumbling economically, and this is what Sardar Patel and Nehru also believed. They thought that Pakistan cannot sustain economically, it will crumble and fall back on India. It did not happen. What is even more important is that till 1991, Pakistan's per capita income was higher than that of India. It's only after post-liberalization that we have gone ahead and we have moved. The situation, Pakistan's foreign exchange reserves come every year. This is about $19 billion plus. But what is important is that in next 6 months, they have to pay $6 billion as repayment of loan, $8 billion is the trade deficit. So foreign exchange reserves are crumbling. But Pakistan's strength has been remittances like India. They also get a fairly large chunk of remittances from all overseas Pakistanis. There have been some constriction because Saudi Arabia and UAE, which contribute over 50% of the remittances, are seen slow down because of low oil prices, and that's crunch. But from US, UK, etc., the remittances have been increasing. IMF program have been done. Just to give you a picture, you will see the Pakistan's budgetary allocation. You will see that the development fund is extremely small. Bulk of the payment goes, as far as interest payment is concerned, defense and pensions is concerned. Just don't want to take time for paucity of time, but basically GDP growth Pakistan's is best in 10 years actually, 5.2% it was for Pakistan's financial year incidentally is from July to June, unlike India's which is Current account deficit has been rising consistently and is expected to rise to $18 billion this particular year. Finally, Pakistan is banking on China-Pakistan economic corridor, which is passing through Pakistan. $56 billion have been committed. The recent report says that China will invest over $100 billion. There are serious questions, both in Pakistan and in China, about the economic viability of India. India opposes it because it passes through our territory. And of course, within Pakistan, certain economists feel that the rate at which the interest is being, these funds are being provided, Pakistan will find it extremely difficult to service. Some of the power projects, in fact, bulk of the money is actually going into power projects, and the power that is being produced will be the costliest in the world. Can a country like Pakistan service that sort of a debt? Is again a debatable point. There are, of course, questions about alignment of the CPEC. The Pakhtuns are demanding that the western route should be there, and western route, Pakistani government says that there is a western route, but nobody knows where the western route goes, and it's neither been implemented. The eastern route which passes through Punjab is actually there. Of course, this fault line I should talk about with Ahmar staying, so I won't deal with it. He will probably be talking about this fault line. The last and important point is Talibanization and radicalization. And this is very important because this affects not only India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran, or anybody, but it affects the global community. Pakistan's radicalization is important. And we need to understand that radicalization or Talibanization is inherent in the ideology of Pakistan. When you create a nation state premised on the belief that Muslims of the subcontinent are a separate nation, Islam automatically assumes the same. Right in 47, the first major challenge to Pakistani nationalism emanated from Pakhtun nationalism, because as you know, 46 elections were the last elections based on which India and Pakistan were partitioned. And in that particular election, Muslim League was squarely defeated in NWFP, Northwest Frontier Province. But despite that, in 47, they went in for referendum, gave it. So as soon as Pakistan came into being, the first political step of the Pakistani government was to sack the provincial government of Northwest Frontier Province, which was still in clear majority in the assembly. And since then, what they have done is that they have tried to counter Pakhtun nationalism in a two-pronged strategy. One was to keep Pakhtuns divided. That is, keep FATA and Northwest Frontier Province separate. Till recently, it used to be called Northwest Frontier Province, which was a geographical anomaly when Pakhtuns would say that Baloch have Balochistan, Sindhis have Sindh, and Punjabis have Punjab. Why not Pakhtunkhwa or Pakhtunistan? They were not denied. And when they eventually been given Pakhtunkhwa, they have been prefixed with Khyber Pakhtunkhwa or something like that. And the second was FATA was kept frozen in medieval times without any political or economic development. And to counter Pakhtun nationalism, they encouraged religious political parties to promote an all-inclusive Islamic identity to subsume the ethnic identities of the people, so that they say we are all Muslims and we are Pakistanis rather than we are Pakhtuns. And that actually in due course led to greater Talibanization. I won't go into the detail. You know what happened, Taliban, how it was created by Pakistan. We had an interior minister of Pakistan called Nasrullah Babar, who used to call himself father of Taliban. Then we had 9/11, and of course, when the US attacked, the mid-level leadership of Taliban was housed by Pakistani security establishment in South Waziristan. And this was with an intention that they wanted to use it in Kabul to establish a government which is favorably inclined towards that once the US and the Western world moved out. In due course, this Taliban consolidated, started carrying out attacks across borders, and then Pakistan army had to move in. Pakistan army suffered heavy losses, and then they started a great game where they started accommodating Taliban. They started signing peace deals. They signed peace deals in South Waziristan, North Waziristan, and different parts of India. And the Taliban, which was initially confined to South Waziristan, kept spreading from there to North Waziristan, Bajaur, Mohan, and to different parts of. And today, virtually, they are. What is important is, I just wanted to show you one slide, and this is important, is that at one stage, the Pakistani government accepted that over half the province of Northwest Frontier Province will have Sharia laws, Nizam-e-Adl as it was told. And when that resolution came to Pakistan's parliament, and this is very interesting, the person who was leading that movement was a chap called Maulana Sufi Muhammad, who led an organization called Tehreek-e-Nifaz Shariat-e-Muhammadi. His spokesperson said even holy prophets had no authority to make religious laws or amend them. Then how can the National Assembly do it? If members of the National Assembly oppose the judicial system of Shariat-e-Muhammadi, they will enter the category of non-Muslims and Pakistan will become Darul Haram. To which Fazlullah, who is now the TTP head, he is his son-in-law at that time, his spokesperson said those opposing the Nizam-e-Adl would be declared murtad or apostate. Then he or she should contest elections on minority seat if he or she remains alive. The result was every parliamentary resolution is usually debated. No debate, no select committee, it was passed the same day. And Zardari, who was flying to Japan same day, he was the president and made it into a law. And that actually set the alarm bells ringing. And after consolidating this, actually, the Taliban started moving into Punjab, and you'll see most of the attacks are actually on sectarian targets on security forces, except one cricket team which was kidnapped, attacked, Sri Lankan cricket team. If you see that YouTube video, you'll see the terrorists came, they fired and they went back. They were in no hurry. And the aim was to kidnap the Sri Lankan cricket team, and they would have succeeded. But for the fact that they did not realize that a bus could continue moving with all its tires flat. And it's only because of the driver's sensibility that the Sri Lankan cricket team was not picked up. Because with every single tire flattened, he continued moving the bus and did not stop the bus even at the stadium gate. The bus was taken onto the pitch from where the Sri Lankan cricket team was evacuated by helicopters. Aim was to actually exchange him for certain terrorists. I won't go into the details. Consequently, Pakistan's army started with various military operations. All these military operations had one thing very common. They started with aerial bombing and artillery firing, leading to huge collateral damage. In fact, in the first operation in Swat Valley called Operation Raheras, 3.5 million people were displaced. Now, what happens is when you displace that sort of a people and don't make any arrangements for them, these people are disillusioned, disgruntled, and then they become ready for the terrorists who are actually trying to exploit them, and that's been happening. And Rahe Rast was followed by Rahe Najat and Zarbe-Ad, which I talked of. Incidentally, Zarbe-Ad started on 15 June 2014. The ground troops moved only on 30th June. So for first 15 days, it was actually a relentless aerial bombing and artillery firing. And what is more important is that the North Waziristan agency where this operation was launched, its population was believed to be around 9.5 lakhs when the operation was launched. Eventually, the internally displaced people were over 1 million. So firstly, their census figures were wrong. And secondly, every individual in that agency had been asked to move on. That was the level of thing. And when we talk of Iraq, etc., these are some of the pictures I thought I just want to tell you. Just 2-3 more times, I think I'm overshooting. When we talk of Pakistan's radicalization, this event will go as a significant pointer. This is Salman Taseer's assassination. He was the governor of Punjab. He was assassinated by his bodyguard. Now, a lot of political leaders have been assassinated by bodyguards. But what is important is that this gentleman who you see in the closet is Mumtaz Qadri. He loaded one magazine, emptied one magazine, loaded another magazine, emptied another magazine. There were 23 other bodyguards. Not one of them took one step either to incapacitate him or to protect Salman Taseer, thereby indicating that everybody was in agreement with him. Now it has actually come out that he had already told others, I'm going to kill him. He was apprehended and taken to court, and this picture is of that time. You can see that he has been showered with rose petals. This is an instant reaction. But this shows the level of radicalization. The advocates, lawyers did not know that he will come. But the moment they know that he has come after killing that chap, they are showering him with rose petals. By the time he was taken, a Facebook page had come supporting him with thousands of hits. When he was in lockup, his CDs were created on NATs as religious CDs and were circulated. No cleric was ready to perform last rites of Salman Taseer. Pakistan People's Party had to ask a party member to perform last rites for him and then ask him to leave country. When supporters of Salman Taseer the day after his assassination wanted to have a candlelight vigil for him in Lahore, hardly 100 people turned up. The next day, Jamaat-e-Islami took out a procession in support of the assassin, and 25,000 people turned up. Actually, this event shattered the myth that Pakistan has a moderate majority. Because when I go for track to dialogue, the Pakistanis say we have a vocal minority which is radical and it's a moderate majority. So, no, people were unwilling to go on to a TV program and talk on this issue. When Fatiha was being read for Salman Taseer in Parliament, the religious political parties members refused to get it. By that point of time, Pakistan's judiciary had become hyperactive. There was a Justice Iftikhar Chaudhary, and he had started taking suo moto notice. He would talk suo moto notice of how Indian TV channels were corrupting the Pakistani mind. But on this particular issue, he was quiet. Army, which has a viewpoint on everything, also kept quiet. ISPR at one stage had said that we have a point of view as far as MFN status to India is concerned. But on this assassination, they never opened their mouth. Eventually, after 2 years, when anti-terrorism court sentenced this assassin to death, the judge's chamber was ransacked by lawyers. Judge had to run and take shelter with Chief Justice. Chief Justice told him, take leave. He took leave and now left Pakistan. Eventually, of course, he's been assassinated. This also broke the myth that Barelvis are moderates. Because the assassin was Barelvi, the whole support for him was Barelvi. And this also told you that there is a huge radicalization of armed forces. That's one of the reasons why armed forces could not take a stand. I just wanted to show you a picture. This is actually a week after the assassin was hanged. You can see the support for the assassin. A picture speaks, as I said, 1,000 words. You can see the support for an assassin 1 week after the death. They are having support for it. When I went to Lahore, I was actually startled to see this sort of open exhortation for jihad. This is behind an auto rickshaw. Another manifestation of Pakistan's radicalization is this. Pakistan is one of the 5 countries afflicted by polio worldwide today, WHO list. And this is because radical clerics have said that oral polio vaccine is un-Islamic. It's a conspiracy by the Western world against the Islamic world. As a result, every oral lady health worker has to be escorted by 2 armed gunmen because these lady health workers have been shot dead. And this is not one of pictures. I can show you the next year's picture. You can see the next to next year's picture. You can see the next to next year's picture. And you can see all pictures. Everywhere there is an armed gunman with the person who is actually. And this is from Pakistani media. I'm not fabricating them or creating. And this takes me to radicalization of armed forces because, as Stephen Cohen said, all states have armies, but in Pakistan's case, it's an army that's not a state. So radicalization of Pakistan army is actually a very, very significant factor, and we have seen as early as 2005, 6 officers of the rank of colonel equivalent in army and air force actually refused to fight in South Afghanistan and report martial. And you would all appreciate having been in armed. I have been in armed forces. I can tell you that if 6 officers had the guts to openly say so that they will not fight, there will be 600 others who would have been sympathetic to the cause but would not have had the guts to say so. Every single attack on security forces, there has been an insider who's going on. The first attack on Parvez Musharraf, the chap who pressed the trigger was an Air Force person. In third attack on Musharraf's life, 100 Air Force personnel were convicted. I'm not talking of accused. 100 Air Force personnel were convicted, including 3 who were sentenced to death. One of them was a gentleman called Adnan Rashid, who stayed for some years in the jail. And then one fine day, Taliban said enough is enough. They descended from the high hills, broke open the jail and released every prisoner, including Adnan Rashid, and took him away. And then he became their spokesperson. And then when Pakistani government wanted to negotiate with them, they said Adnan Rashid will negotiate tomorrow. And Pakistani government did not know how to negotiate with somebody who has been sentenced to death. So that is how it is actually. There have been large number of officers and men from Pakistan's armed forces who resigned to join radical outfits, Lashkar-e-Toiba, Taliban, etc. There was an attack on naval air station called PNS Mehran, where, okay, just 3 minutes. Okay. So there was an attack on PNS Mehran, naval air station, where when the attack took place, the TTP spokesperson said 17 Fidain have gone in to attain Shahadat. For 16 hours, they held naval commandos, army commandos, police commandos are there. And when the debris was initially cleared, there were only 3 bodies. One chap, they said, escaped. What happened to 13 others? They put on the uniform and joined the others. Because you didn't know who was fighting on which side, but they were fighting inside. The fact is, there were 12 P-3C Orions parked there, out of which 3 had undergone extensive modernization costing billions of dollars. From 200 yards, they fired mortars and destroyed 2 out of those 3 modified P-3C Orions. And I can tell you, after 32 years in Navy, I would not be able to tell you which is a modified Orion and which is not. Somebody who has not even seen sea from Fatah or Waziristan, for him, somebody who was inside. One Brigadier Ali Khan was arrested for links with Hizb ut-Tahrir. Now, Hizb ut-Tahrir is not actually a militant organization, but it's a pan-Islamic organization. Anybody who believes in Hizb ut-Tahrir does not believe in Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran, etc. believes in global Islamic Islam. He's already been subverted. And one odd brigadier can always be there. But the point is, Brigadier Khan's father was in Pakistan Army, his son is in Pakistan Army, his son-in-law is in Pakistan Army, his 2 brothers are in Pakistan Army. When his court-martial started, prosecution submitted a list of 413 people who we had contacted, including a F-16 pilot who had agreed to bomb the GHQ during Corps Commanders meeting. So that has been the case. And in Pakistan's case, bombing of the Corps Commanders meeting has been a very, very viable option. Because if you actually bomb it, Pakistan Army's leadership is wide open. Because earlier, one Major General Zahirul Abbasi, who was actually earlier a military attaché in India, when he wanted to stage a coup, he'd also thought of the same thing. But being an army chap, he wanted to use a multi-barrel rocket launcher. And one of the brigadier of his was actually arrested while carrying an NBRL from the border to the Rawalpindi. The latest was a very interesting case. One fully loaded warship of Pakistan Navy, PNS Zulfikar, was actually taken over by Al-Qaeda in Indian state in Karachi. And who took over? The serving naval officers. And why did they fail? Because the reinforcement could not reach. And who was the reinforcement? The reinforcement was again serving and retired naval officers. All coming in uniform, carrying weapons. One sentry who saw them did not know what to do. He thought they are all uniformed officers. He couldn't ask them. But he felt that the weapons they were carrying were not service issues. Now this, in a feudal setup like Pakistan, it's very difficult to ask an officer who is wearing uniform with full regalia and you know he's an officer. But what this chap did was that he saw the boat was coming and he fired one round in the air. Now these people who were edgy immediately opened fire. The moment they opened fire, their identity was revealed. That the first bullet hit, the boat sank. Most of them died because of drowning, not because of bullet shots. And that's how the reinforcement. But the aim was to take that PNS Zulfikar out to sea. A warship fully loaded with missiles, guns, ammunition, rations, fuel. It could have remained at sea for months. And the aim was to take it to Persian Gulf and target US carriers. That was the aim. Now, this is what we need to understand, and this is it. And today, of course, in Pakistan, we have not one outfit, but two outfits. You have Islamic State and Al-Qaeda both competing to lead the global jihad, and both are trying. As a result, the first thing which Islamic State did, as soon as 6 TTP commanders shifted their allegiance to Islamic State, was to set up a Khorasan chapter. Now, what is Khorasan? I just take 1 minute. I think I've got one more minute. I just take that. Please understand, when all these jihadi outfits want to stage a so-called global jihad, they have a theological narrative which draws you. It is not that something a youth sitting in Bhatkal or Bangalore gets an overnight dream that he must go and join Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. They have created a narrative which says that it is the bounden duty to follow this. Now that narrative has a very important ingredient which says that the end of time battle or Qayamat se pehle ki jang will be fought in Khorasan. Now Khorasan in Islamic lexicon is this area, which is Eastern Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and parts of Central Asia, where they believe that the Islamic armies will defeat Dajjal or the Antichrist. That's one of the reasons why Osama bin Laden or Ayman al-Zawahiri was in this part. They could have fought in Arab, they could have fought in Yemen, they could have fought in Egypt, they could have fought in Saudi Arabia. They came to FPAC because they want to fight in Khorasan. So that is the significance of Khorasan. Now you can say it's a mythical thing because the hadith after that says that after victory in Khorasan, there will be Ghazwa-e-Hind or battle for India. And when the forces flying black flag emanate from here, Imam Mahdi would come out of occultation and a global Islamic emirate would be created. And you can say it's a mythical narrative. But they believe in it and they're willing to die for it. So that's what we need to understand. So that's where Khorasan is important. And ever since Islamic State has come, there has been a competition between Al-Qaeda and Islamic State. And that's why Ayman al-Zawahiri came out and said that AQIS has been created. And thereafter, there were two major spectacular attacks. One was this PNS Zulfikar, the other was an attack in Wagah border. Now, if anybody has been to India and have been to Wagah, you would see what sort of ceremony goes on. When the ceremony goes on, after the ceremony finishes, people walk towards the border, they can shake hands with each other. This suicide bomber sat through the ceremony. If he would have blown himself, he would have killed far more people. He didn't want to. He sat through the ceremony, and thereafter, when he started walking towards the border, he started walking. He crossed 2 checkpoints, and 3rd checkpoint, unfortunately, to blow himself. Something must have gone wrong. But the aim was to come to the border and blow himself so that one blast casualties in both the countries. So that is how it is. I just wind up. I'm sorry, I overshot my time. These are what I talked about, the fault lines. What are the implications, etc. We can discuss it subsequently. Sorry, over to you.
Said I am a friend of India, I will please like to say I am kind of offended because I consider myself a son of Bharat Mata. I am here because of the sons and daughters of Bharat Mata. I am extremely indebted to all of you. I believe there will be no Baluch and no Baluchistan without Bharat Mata, without the good in the people of India. I come from an old family of Karachi and Rangoon. I have a strange background. I was born in Rangoon, but there was a military coup 62, so we left. And my mother decided to go to Karachi because, to be surprised, Karachi is the largest Baluch city in the world. The largest population of Baluch in the world, even today, more than any other city in Iran or Pakistan. So, at the time of partition, my grandfather father was the Amirul Qawm, leader of the Baluch people all in Karachi. I have here a very honorable gentleman who I consider my family elder, Shri Ram Gehani Sahib, old, very senior person from Karachi. He had to leave Karachi when he was 30 years old. Shri Ram Gehani. So when the Sindhis left, Hindu left Karachi, we lost Karachi. The strange story, my father was lucky to inherit lots of property from his father, and all his renters in an apartment complex in Old Karachi used to be Sindhi Hindus. Very nice, polite, always pay rent on time. And this partition happened the next year, there were lots of problems. Yaqut Ali Khan came and my Commodore Lopan Salvi said Jinnah was secular. If Jinnah was secular, I mean, he didn't say, some people say. So if Jinnah was secular, then Bin Laden was the best Democrat. so when the Hindus left and my father went to collect rent from the Muslims, came from India, so they said, the peaceful grass eaters have gone. We are beef eaters like you. We are going to show you. My father was totally apolitical person. And he said, that was the day I realized what a monster Jinnah has created. He's coming from a very apolitical person's mouth. So I remember those words. I am mostly a patrikar. I have always been a patrikar, a journalist. But since Balochistan is facing so many issues, now I have put on so many other hats. One is I'm an activist, kind of lobbyist for Balochistan. And I have this American Friends of Balochistan. So my two good friends, I call Krishna Gudipati. He is the Brahman from Andhra Pradesh. I call him just like Pakistan had the Great Britain, so he's the Great Britain of American Friends of Balochistan. And I also have my good friend, Karl Mahadoya Clemens. He's like America of American Friends of Balochistan. He put in a new life to the organization. So I'm requesting all of you who are here, and both of them are bearded like me, so I'm kind of surprised only bearded guys are in American Friends of Balochistan. So please, the unbearded ones, whosoever here are, kindly, I will request you to join us, to help us, because I need each and every Indian American. I need each and every Hindu, each and every Indian to support our cause. I am, just as I told about my father's story, there was this huge, very nice Marwadi businessman who had built a very beautiful palace. Sai Ram Gehani Sai might be knowing, was called Mohata Palace. Best house in Karachi, 1927. My grandfathers also had a very good house, but of course that was number one, this guy's. And Jinnah Saab came, Jinnah knew him. He knew Jinnah, he was a social elite, very rich guy. And Jinnah said, this house we are taking over. Surprised, sir, I have another house, you take that house. Jinnah says, no, this is our house, you live in another house. And so the guy was so heartbroken, he left Karachi never to return. And that was the first foreign office of Pakistan. So when you guys were wondering why Kulbhushan Yadav's family was mistreated when they went to the foreign office, what can you expect from Pakistan? When they have their foreign office in an occupied Hindu building. And then you think a Hindu's wife and a Hindu's mother will be treated gently by them. I think it would be living in a fool's paradise. Unfortunate as it is, Pakistan was, as I said, there were so many problems, but it is a sectarian issue. They were born by which we Baluch were never part of it, and we have been forced to become that. And we are having so much human rights violations. You cannot even think. I mean, what is this nonsense of putting feces in the mouths of young Baluch activists, whether they are dead or whether they are alive? This ISI, military intelligence, and Pakistani forces are forcing feces in their mouths. What is this nonsense? After killing some of those guys who are demanding independence, they drag their bodies. They tie their bodies to the vehicles and drag them. What is this going on? Why do you have to treat humans like in that fashion? You see, India is a big neighbor of Pakistan, a very powerful neighbor, and how they treat the Indian soldiers after killing them, decapitate their bodies. It's totally nonsensical. I mean, major power, your neighbor, Pakistani army generals and the military and the mullahs, they have totally put the country down. Maybe after our forced annexation, forced occupation. Tell you an interesting story. You see, in Sindh, there was a meeting of notables of Sindh, just like in Balochistan. In Sindh, the notables of Sindh met in Karachi at my family house. And all the notables of Sindh unanimously rejected the idea of Pakistan. And once Pakistan was made, there was an independent Kalat state, and my uncle was the first ambassador of Kalat in Pakistan. So the flag of Balochistan flew over our family house in Karachi from August 11, 47 until March 27, 48. And then I think the flag is still there with someone in the family. So, and today you see the crimes against humanity in unconscionable, abducting children, Aftab Ahmed, Aftab Yunus, 9 years old, abducted October 28, just to force his father, who was the leader of the Baluch party, to surrender. Another child, Ulfat Altaf, again 9 or 11 years old, abducted that night, October 28. Still nobody knows where he is. Almost, according to the Vice for Baluch missing persons, as many as 20,000 Baluch people have become victims of enforced disappearances. The brutal actions against the Baluch people exacerbated after Pakistan launched the China-Pakistan economic corridor, because the Baluch don't agree with those plans. Baluch think that this is going to turn us into a minority in their own homeland, and it is going to overnight. Our population is very low, and it is kind of sad because we think that Balochistan is part of the extended family of India. We have never thought, and it is. I'm not just because I need your support. I'm not making up things. It is a fact. Until 1930s, the Baluch wanted to be independent together with India. But when they saw that the British are totally determined to create this nonsense called Pakistan, see all of those, I hope, even those who are here in America for many years and cut off from the politics of that area, understand that Istan means land of. So all the other Istans are named after real people, including Balochistan, including Afghanistan, including Kurdistan. But this Pakistan was coined at Cambridge University by that guy called Chaudhry Rahmat Ali. And it was good karma that he never got a chance to live in Pakistan. He got on the wrong side of Liaquat Ali Khan and he was kicked out of Pakistan. So he went and died in England. And so this is the country called Pakistan. And in human history, never before has a major nation seceded from the Union. In case of Pakistan, we saw that in 1971, Bangladesh seceded from Pakistan. So today, you see, I am appealing to my friend. I'm very honored to sit next to Commodore Alok Bansalji. I am so indebted to all of you for giving me this honor to speak today. I'm calling upon India to please look upon Balochistan as she looks upon Kerala and the state of West Bengal. If I am extremely anguished to see more than 500,000 Kashmir Pandits, my heart does not pain only for the Baloch. My heart pains for the Kashmir Pandits who have been pushed out of their homes, the homes that have been there before Muhammad was born, before David was born, before Jesus was born. This was their area, this was their land, that was their home. They have been pushed out of there. My heart beats for the Sindhi Hindu girls who are being raped daily in Pakistan, daily, and the Christian Punjabi girls who are being abducted and raped daily in Pakistan. I am a human first. My heart is not only for Baloch. My heart is for all the oppressed in Pakistan, and I am looking. My friend Commodore Alok Bansalji at lunch asked us to look towards the Capitol Hill. I am saying no. मैं मशरक़ की तरफ देखूंगा, मैं मशरक़ ही की तरफ देखूंगा. I will look towards New Delhi. I will look towards India. We are your family. Please don't. Before Nehru had pushed us to the wolves, now today is the time for the new leaders of India, Sri Narendra Modi, to correct history and to embrace us as their own.
So what a wonderful presentation, both of us. What we'll do, quick, small change. With the interest of time, we'll bring the next panelists as well. We'll request both of them also to occupy the seats, and we'll accommodate them so that we can get the question in the, if the whatever the time remains later, we can get the question for everybody. So I'll request, so Ashwinji, please take over.
Yeah, we can sit here. So,
How much time do we have?
so the next two speakers.
Please.
While they're settling down, just a brief introduction about both of our next set of speakers. Mrs. Shakti Munshiji, she is an environmentalist and a human rights analyst, and Vice President of the Mumbai chapter of Jammu and Kashmir Study Center. She was a permanent invite and a board member of the Kashmiri Pandit Association previously. And our other speaker is Dr. Vijay Sadawal. He's a policy analyst and a commentator who specializes in local governance and intra-community issues affecting political dynamics, especially within the Kashmir Valley.
So the questions so that he can read them all and then they can.
Yeah. So one quick announcement before Shakti starts with her commentary is we will hand out a piece of paper for questions. So if you can note down your questions and we will take it, and then based on the number of questions, we'll prioritize for the questions to be asked in the end.
Shall we? First of all, let's thank FIIDS and all of you for coming here, but I'll cut it short to all the thank yous. And I'll start from where he left. He's given you a good picture of Pakistan, you know, what kind of a state that is. Then Baluchi, son of India, you know, he's told you of the atrocities that are happening there. I also want to tell you the Raja of Kalar wanted to accede to India, you know, but at that time he was refused because he did not have the land connectivity. And he said, if we can have East Pakistan and West Pakistan, why can't we have East India and West India, you know? But then there, according to the Government of India Act 1935, there were certain rules set down on how it happens, and that was a part of British India that was done, and this was a princely state, so the accession was not allowed. You know, that's the time. So now coming to his sufferings, it's moved me a lot. But then now coming to Kashmir, he said the Kashmir belonged, you know, the Kashmiris. I'll give you a little brief about the history of Kashmir, because what happens is when we talk of truth, you know, truth becomes, facts become everybody's truth, but there are fantasy is nobody's truth, you know, And there are myths which become somebody's truth, and the myth that gets repeated and repeated and repeated spreads in the society. And that's what's happening in Kashmir also. There are lots of myths that are going along. And whenever you hear TV debates, you find the Pakistanis putting in the accession was not complete, or the or 370, or you didn't have plebiscite, or the people of the valley are Muslim majority, so it belongs to the Muslims. All these myths are going around. So I'll throw some light on each one of them for you all, so that you know what exactly it is. If we talk of Kashmir, in the state of Jammu and Kashmir, everybody has a perception in today's time that Kashmir is a Muslim majority state. It belongs to the Muslims. It does belong to them, but it also belongs to the others who live in that state. But it comes with it belongs to them, and it as though it has been theirs for a very, very long time, you know. So if you look at Nilmat Quran, because I know many of you are Indians who must have read a lot of it, in chapter 1, Raja Janmejaya will ask Rishi Resham-Payam, you know who Raja Janmejaya and Rishi Resham-Payam are, you know, and he'll ask कि जब महाभारत हुआ था तो कश्मीर के राजा क्यों नहीं आए थे, you know. That means Kashmir was Kashmir even then. Then if you read Kalhan's Raj Tarangi, you find that he has described it was the complete history from Nil's time, the first king, you know. But people may say, okay, ये mythology है या सच्चाई है. But look at it, there was Lalit Aditya in 1699. His empire, 1699, around that time, I may be wrong a few years here and there, you know. But Karkota dynasty of Kashmir that was there. And his empire spread from Kaveri right up to the Caspian Sea, from up to Assam. So, and Kashmir was the capital of his empire, and it was Kashmir even then. You see, so Kashmir has been Kashmir for a very long time, you know. And then you talk of Sharda Peeth, we've all heard of it. You know, these are the facts which you talk of, you know. Sharda Peeth has been there, where in the 6th, it is the 6th or the 7th century when Shankaracharya came as Adi Shankar to Kashmir, you know. And they opened the south door of the Sharda Peeth for him, you know. And they had a Vad Vivad. That's the way it was done those days. If you came with different schools of thoughts, you sat across the table, you had a lot of discussions, and you accepted something of theirs, and you know, you gave in to some and you took some. So he came out as Adi Shankaracharya from there, you know. So this was, Kashmir was even Kashmir then, and it was called Kashmir. He spoke of Mahayana Buddhism. It originated from there, you know. Then there are many such things that have originated. Even your Patanjali, if you look at it, not Ramdev's Patanjali, but you know, so it was also from Kashmir, you know. And in the second millennium, you had Abhinav Gupta. We all have heard of Abhinav Gupta, Kashmiri Shaivism, you know, or Abhinav Bharati, you know, that translation. They say if you had to understand Bharat Muni's Natya Shastra, you had to read Abhinav Bharati, you know. So Kashmir was Kashmir even then. So when the Kashmiri Pandits talk of Kashmir, you know, or if you talk of Kashmiri Panditon ka jo Panchang hai, it's called Saptarishi Panchang, you know, then that is the current year going on in 2017 is 5093 to be exact. That means for so many years we've had which gave our lunar days, which gave our rituals, we call it Janampatri, you know, or Nechpatri, we call it Nechpatri, and Nechpatri, yeah. So that gives a complete detail of our lunar days, our functions, our rituals, how to do it and all. And that is 5093. So first you can understand, as he rightly said, so many years we've been there, you know, and for us it's not a piece of land that we are talking about. It is our identity, it's our astitva, it's our Indianism, you know, it's our civilization. So when somebody tells us that, you know, Kashmir में तो आप लोग थे नहीं, आपको जगमोहन जी ने निकाल दिया था, it hurts us, you know, because we were the originals. Like sometime back we had Bashir Manzar, I don't know if all of you have heard of him. He's a journalist from Kashmir, and he came to Mumbai to Karina University to talk about his, you know, the Kashmir mein, what is happening to the Muslims there. So I told him, Bashir ji, I can't even hate you. So he says, why? I said, because originally you were a Kashmiri Pandit till 1339. So it's my blood that is still there, my DNA. into you. So I can't even hate you fully. Not that I hate any one of them, because hate is not a good thing to have. But, so he just looked at me and, he didn't know what to do. So he was polite. Of course, he was very polite until that. So that was the original Kashmir. That was accepted. So today's Kashmir, when you talk of all these myths that have come up, that Kashmir is a Muslim Kashmir. Kashmir was originally also Muslim, so they should get, and Azadi. That's another thing that they come up with. Azadi. Yes, you have heard what if Pakistan could do that to itself, what it has done. If it is doing what it is doing to the US, troubling, you can understand what it does to us, where it's our immediate neighbor, So there is a lot of infiltration, there's a lot of, because 47, I'm sure you wouldn't have won if wars were won only by the army, That's why Pakistan lost Bangladesh, you see. We wouldn't have got Kashmir in 47 too. Let's be fair. People, Muslims, they were on our side at that time. They have to understand, And there was no murder or something till 1980s or 80s or 90s, early 80s, because Kashmir Muslims were also not so aggressive. But this radicalization and Islamization and Pakistan interference into affairs, and of course, neglect on our side. We have also neglected all our border states. That's why you had Punjab problem. That's why you have Northeast problems. And that's why you have Kashmir problems. And the governments have been neglecting it in the past, not the present one, of course. But people also have to put in chip in their bit. And the chip in comes in by being aware of it. Aware of what belongs to you, why it belongs to you, and how you can keep it. You see? So for the Kashmir region, we spread about a lot of awareness on the various aspects of legal and constitutional holding of Kashmir. Because most of the time on TV debates and all, you see these Pakistanis saying, but accession was not there. Not only they, even Sheila Rashid Shora, if you know of her, she was an intern in my company, and I was generous enough to keep her as an intern. And she was about 15 days after she left my company, and I saw her on NDTV talking about Azadi. You see? So I kept on monitoring her. And then there was a function in which she said, but the accession is not complete. So I had to get up and tell them how the accession was complete according to what government laws that was said, and how accession happened. So each and every state followed the same method of accession. Initially for three things. Yes, every state that was coming to your Constituent Assembly had to be said. They were supposed to have their own constitution, but many of them opted out. You have to understand that many of them opted and they are out, and they said, we don't want it. We will come into the Constituent Assembly that is to be forming the Constitution of India. You see, the main constitution, and they were put in. And that's why there were representatives from all the states in the Constituent Assembly that was supposed to form the Indian Constitution. You see, and how did then this 370 came in? There's another myth about it. They say the word that it is special, which is in the chapter head. We have to understand legally, the chapter head defines, it doesn't, each and every word in the chapter does not imply to each and every article. So the word special that was added in 1962 or 72, one of the 2 years. I'm not very good with dates, so you all can look for it. Therefore, Nagaland, So the word special, so then I was wondering, why are they using this word special for Kashmir every time? How did it happen? And you find that in the parliamentary discussions that were happening, when 370 was coming in, the word used was that in Kashmir, there are special conditions. You get my point? So these words that are loosely used later on come from, so they have a source. So they say, if you do not understand how the law applies on an article of a Constitution of India, you look into the external aids. External aid is a parliamentary discussion that's happening. So when you look at the parliamentary discussion, you find they said it is a special condition in Jammu and Kashmir because there's a war going on there, So we cannot, right now have a constitution. So let's give them a temporary and transitional. We'll not get into the political discussions that followed during that time for the word, but the article was temporary and transitional. So they were granted the temporary and transitional positioning, which was to be given to the Constituent Assembly. The Constituent Assembly was supposed to withdraw it with the president's signature, whatever, but it didn't happen for whatever reason. Then comes that 35, that we had this special thing of PRCs, that is state subjection, which they have picked up from the Maharaj. I'm going fast so that you have some idea on all the points that come as dispute, and then you can one can do more study on it. 35A came in as a presidential order. So you cannot, and this article was put into our constitution. It is not put into the main body of the constitution. So when we are wondering, when we are an academic group that's studying of how things are coming about. So when we are studying and we don't find 35A in the main body of the constitution, we go for Google search. Okay, and we find 35A is mentioned there. And then when we search, we find it is in the appendix. Now, it is not in the main body of the constitution because it has been passed by the, am I crossing the time? No. It has been passed by the presidential order. Now, no article can come into the constitution which is not passed as a bill into the parliament, discussed and then passed. So you understand the fraud, that wrong that, I wouldn't say the fraud, the wrong that can happen. So these are the things that are the things we did throw on you. Then they say the plebiscite is not complete. You all know how we went to the UN, but we went under Chapter 6. You know what, Chapter 6 is not compulsory, it's not binding to whatever decision. And you went under Article 35. Article 35 doesn't talk of dispute really, it talks of territorial disturbance that's happened around you. And if you do not take charge of it, then we can we can also give it back to them, and that will disturb the peace of the region. You see, under 35, Article 35 of Chapter 6, if you look at it, then that is what you went for. So when they say you went for it as a dispute, we didn't go for it as a dispute. We said it's a territorial disturbance because of the invasion of Pakistan into our territory. And then the UN gave its fine. And of course they say, but this happened in the UN, and there were a lot of stages in the UN as we were going through this process, and that happens with any negotiation. There are a lot of stages that happen. You give a lot of information, they correct their, whatever is the action that has to be taken. But the final 1948 resolution was that they had to withdraw their army. They didn't tell us to withdraw our army because it belonged to us. They have to completely withdraw their army. The tribals also have to withdraw. People have to go back to their places. Peace has to be maintained, and India keeps the minimum forces. What is important is India is allowed to keep the minimum forces because the place belongs to us. And then they said plebiscite, that plebiscite should happen. And there were objections also put in by the Indian government that if it does not happen within a time frame, we will, because plebiscite is the will of the people. So we will do it in our own form, and that was done in 1954 by forming a Constituent Assembly there, and then they ratified that Jammu and Kashmir is an integral part of India. And also for the princely states to become a part of you, there was a process. There has been a process. First is the proclamation of the Maharaja of the state, and on 25th of November, 1949, Karan Singh signed that proclamation saying the Constitution of India we fall into the Constitution of India. Then it was ratified, and then second stage for all states were that it had to be ratified by their assembly, and it was ratified that this is an integral part of India. And if you look at their clause 3, it says that the section 3 of the Jammu and Kashmir Constitution. Section 5 says if there is a dispute between the parliament, between their constitution and the Indian parliament, the Parliament of India is supreme. And section 147 says you cannot bring about any change in these two articles. So somehow it's all closed and done. We have to get that very clear that it's all closed and done. But now talking of how this terrorism, do we have the time? There's another speaker.
2 minutes.
Few minutes. Okay, 2 minutes. Okay, we all know how the terrorism has happened there or what is happening. Another cause that's very not only are the locals suffering, they're suffering a lot. We may think that they're enjoying it because most of the people there don't want this kind of azadi which they are talking about. You see, so they are suffering. The Kashmiri Pandits are suffering. The West Pakistanis are suffering. The Safai Karamcharis are suffering. The border displaced people are suffering. So it's not that there's only one person suffering there. Everybody is suffering because of these activities that are going around that state. And Pakistan, of course, most of it, but I don't like to say it because I feel that, I as a citizen of India, and a country should be able to protect my things. That's what I feel. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. I will actually focus on. I will actually.
Yeah.
I will actually focus on Kashmiri Pandits themselves. Something that's obviously close to my heart and with which I'm well versed for. My age, which is over 70, and of course in the advocacy, which is more than almost 3 decades old. What is the situation? There are externalities and internalities. Externalities, I think you have heard all of them. Internalities also get very complex, but if we focus on Kashmiri Pandit segment, what are they today? Well, essentially, by recording that has been done by the Indian government, almost 90,000 families existed in the valley at the time of the insurgency started in 1989, 88. And almost every one of them left between the period of 1989 and 1996. In 1996, we had the governor's rule was replaced by a constitutionally elected government, and the first thing that IB did after that, IB being the Internal National Security Organization in India, they did a census of how many Kashmiri Pandits were left over, and that was at that time 18,000, between 18 and 19,000 by each district. So we had actually numbers. So that was in 1996, and which was also the peak by which, quite frankly, the militancy had happened. Then after that, militancy started slowly ebbing down. But the population of Kashmiri Pandits leaving still kept on going. So the interesting thing was, even though they were not being attacked after 1996 in any specific case, they were still leaving. And part of the reason was the governments that were being instituted in the valley, in the state, were primarily not catering to their interests in any particular manner. So where we are today is the Kashmiri Pandit population in the valley today is around 2,700. I have actually the count by districts of where they are. The best thing you can say about the present government, quite frankly, and again, you have to be talking about the state government, not the central government. The best you can say about the state government is there is not any more hemorrhaging taking place. That number has more or less stayed stable for a year. The worst thing, of course, you can say is none of their problems are being attended to, except for one area where I do commend the BJP government which is they're opening up new jobs. But Kashmiri Pandits essentially have been asking for return to the state in obviously would have ideally been going to their homes, but that is impossible. So in basically safety enclaves. That is their number one demand. A demand that, by the way, can be met by the state government, but is choosing not to do so. The demand number two is that their religious and temples, which are essentially being at this time are poorly organized, and in fact, many of them you will not believe it, but actually are run on a day-to-day basis by Kashmiri Muslims because of the lack of people. They want those temples to be put under a Kashmiri Pandit supervision. And there was actually a bill that was brought up at the State Assembly in 1999, which never basically went outside, and it got stalled there. That's their second demand. Their third demand is they would like to get a minority status because they are legally and figuratively and literally a minority, and they are not entitled. At this time, we have a unique situation where the majority community is also being given affirmative criteria because they are not considered to be a minority. I mean, they are considered to be a minority. I'm sorry, the majority community for the purposes of affirmative programs are considered to be a minority. So these are essentially some of the demands that are taking place. I think one of the other ones is, very interestingly, the state budget is essentially paid almost 60% by the Indian government. And state has been asked repeatedly to oversee from that budget the oversight of rehabilitation of Kashmiri Pandits. And their position is, no, it should be done by the central government. It should be a separate below the line budget, which should be done by the central government. And what are you using your money? Which is, again, remember, this is all money still coming from Delhi. 60% of that is coming. They say, oh, we want to rehabilitate the militants who are coming back. We want to pay money to the families that are essentially affected by, whose families were one of their family members was killed by the security forces. We want to reimburse or keep sustenance for the remaining family members. That we want to pay out of our own budget. But we don't want to pay the Kashmiri Pandit rehabilitation. For that center, you maintain an account and you take care of it. So there are these 4 or 5 different critical issues. Now, the last one was on employment. Employment can't be happening if you are not in the valley, but they are creating employment, generating some employment slots for them. All of these are not new. They have been there for the last 2 decades. These demands have been for the last 2 decades. And nothing has changed. They are still the demands. So as much as you can sit in Delhi and make nice lectures and give wonderful speeches, on the ground in the valley, nothing has changed. If anything, I can argue, I don't want to depress you guys, things are going from bad to worse. And the reality is that we have at this time, unfortunately, sort of a 2 bipolar policy towards Kashmir. Leaders tend to say one thing in Delhi, and the same party says something else in the state capitals of Jammu and Srinagar. So political expediency is the name of the game. I'm speaking in very honest terms within the family. And I can be more harsher, but I'm just leaving you with the sense of what I'm trying to talk to you about. This community basically is on the verge of extinction as far as the culture is concerned. And there is nobody giving a damn anywhere other than rhetoric. And because every one of those things that I said, return to the valley, is under the state government authority. Granting the minority state. In fact, previous minority commissioner, Vajata Bibla, in fact, wrote a letter to the central government at that time saying what action of the president can take to actually extend under the rules of the National High Commission on Minorities the Commission on Minorities to the state and have affirmed Kashmiri Pandits as being minority. Wasn't done then, is not being considered right now. In terms of taking over the temples and this thing, again, it's a state action. State can do it, but has not doing it. So I can go on a litany of that, and then I will leave you with the idea who is running the state, and I will leave you with that disturbing thought. So we are actually sort of in a purgatory state, and there's very little hope internally right now as to how things will emerge, even as we talk about all the challenges we have in the external. With that, I think I'll conclude with.
We actually have, literally less than 10 minutes for questions. What we can do is we will have the 2 speakers here on my left to have the priority questions. And then we need to leave the hall, and there's the next hall which is available for like till 6 o'clock. So the rest of the questions for the other 2 speakers can go into the next room. And also our delegates have to fly to California. two questions.
I'll make sure.
2 questions for 10 minutes.
Yep. All right. So these are the questions that we got. I'll try to prioritize for both of you. Alokji, your question is that, let me elaborate, but a precise thing. The community over here is really interested, excited. There are a lot of, anxiousness about the situation. What can be done by this community over here to help the issues and situation? You alluded to the fact about the schooling house. If you can elaborate quickly on that.
One issue which I think Paragji has asked me is as to what the Indian diaspora could do about as far as the minorities in Pakistan is concerned. And I just wanted to take a few minutes, I think, just to tell you that contrary to popular perception, in the province of Sindh, still 10% of population is actually Hindus. And especially in southern Sindh districts, the population is as high as 40%. Tharparkar is still a Hindu majority district in Sindh. So we have a substantive population, but they're living actually a life of great deprivation, as you know, what's been happening as far as the girls, etc. is concerned. Ravita Megwar, Winkle Kumari, and bulk of this population is actually in stark poverty. The Kohlis and Megwars, etc., they're living in stark poverty. In fact, in Tharparkar district, there's no good educational facilities, etc. And I think once you contrast the Christian community in Pakistan, they're also deprived. But one advantage which the Christians have in Pakistan is that the educational institutions are a powerful center of influence. The elite educational centers actually give them enormous clout, because bulk of the elite of Pakistan is actually educated in these institutions, and by controlling those educational institutions, they are in a position to influence this. So it was my suggestion that probably something based in US can probably set up a good educational elites institution in Tharparkar, Mithi, etc., those places where you still have a Hindu majority. And that would not only provide a good educational facilities for Hindus, but that those institutions, by taking an elite from other communities, also can become a very, very influential tool for influencing people. Now, this can only be done from people from abroad, because any connection with India will actually not, it will be a non-starter project. So it has to be from US, and I think...
input on that, Seva International, particularly chapter, Atlanta chapter, Sudesh Katoj and group initiating one school in, I don't know the area, but if there are people who are interested, we can connect to them.
Right. The next two questions, I'll just list them in one go for you. Who really controls nukes in Pak? If radical control of army, then there is a possibility of going into radicals. And what are the plans India, US has? And the second question that you have is that what's happening with track to diplomacy, considering you are actively involved in it?
See, as far as track 2 is concerned, I think it opens the channels of communication. And as I said, I talked about fault lines. There are integrating factors also in Pakistan, because these fault lines have existed for 7 decades and Pakistan has really not broken away. So there are 3 integrating factors, according to me, which have been there. One was, of course, the religion, which no longer is integrating, because initially they would say the religion binds it. Initially, Pakistan said all-inclusive Islamic identity binds the country. It doesn't do so. Because today there are questions about what should be the role of Islam in the society and whose version of Islam. The second is, of course, army. It is, like Stephen Cohen said, that army which holds the state. That's a fact to a great extent. The dissensions in the army only will break it away. As of now, army artificially keeps it. But third is what is more important. The third integrating factor is actually animus towards India. So if you actually have an open animosity, it actually helps Pakistan. After Mumbai, all said and done, when we started beating the war drum, the army was actually able to come out of the stigma that was attached to it. Otherwise, under Musharraf's period, the Pakistan army had actually been run down. But when the war drums, the army becomes the savior and that. So as a result, the public postulation should never be anti-Pakistan. That's what I said. That's why communication has to be important, and it must be communicated that there is no animosity towards the people of Pakistan. It's only the government problem. And the nukes, actually, Pakistan army controls the nukes, and of course they claim that they screen the people who guard this. But please remember, there is a concept called taqiyya, which means that you can actually hide your orientation. Islam has a concept called taqiyya, where you can actually, if there is a threat to your well-being, you can hide your orientation and actually masquerade. So that's what it says. In crude words, you can say that you can hide your intentions. So the fact that terrorists could be hiding is feasible, and this threat to radiological material is a huge, huge threat. I am not privy to anything what India is capable of or planning to do in case these things come fall in terrorist hands? Pakistanis believe that US role has been to roll back their nuclear program. In fact, they believe Raymond Davis, etc., were involved in this sort of a thing only, where they were trying to keep a tab on the nuclear arsenal.
The Shakti, your two questions, and we'll come back to you if time permits. One question that came up is that we always have a community that was displaced as Kashmiri Pandit community. Why can't we call them as Kashmiri Hindus instead of identifying with the guys?
Actually, we call them as Kashmiri Hindus. I can show you my PPT because we are getting late. I say I'm a Kashmiri Hindu who's been thrown out of Kashmir. Kashmir lives in me. So we are Kashmiri Hindus, and now we've started calling ourselves, many of us, Kashmiri Hindus.
Good. That's a good question. The next thing is that what do you think about the practical approach for Article 370 be dissolved? Do you think that's a possibility? And if not, what are the next things?
There is a possibility, of course, to dissolve it because there are different schools of thoughts on it. It's a half-filled glass. I've seen some of the legal fraternities say, oh, you can't touch it, but there are some who can. So whoever argues more strongly, firmly, and has public support, it will happen. So if the whole of the country wants to get rid of it, and 370 is actually detrimental to them, more than of any use to them. If I didn't have the time today because it's so short. But if you see all the government schemes that we've given them, whether it's Indira Vikas or Manrega, 65% of the budget is used, it is misused, there is no accounting, there is no proper things that's happening with it, So 370 is actually wrong for the locals, but somewhere we have to bring about an awareness that it is not helping it. But they scare them that if you take the 370 off, then they will take off your land. So somewhere you have to get the confidence of the local people that land is not important, your progress is important ultimately. And when you do well economically, you will be able to get your land back, Or you can have your land. Maharashtra also, they take, we are buying houses, all of us, from the locals. But Maharashtra is doing well. USA, you own your houses, don't you? You've not taken away the land of the US, original US people, So it is, but they are scared there that they will take away our land, and so the public doesn't want it.
Okay. Ashwinji, back to you.
So we are late. So the questions for Dr. Ji and Ahmar Ji, can we just stay on for 2 more minutes? And once these two delegates leave, we can take the next set of questions.
We'll move over there and the question and answer will continue.
It may not take that much time, right?
We got 3 more questions. Do you have time? It's okay with.
Actually, yes, 2 of you have to leave. So
yeah, we have to pick up our bags.
Right.
I think what I would say is but let
everybody here.
Yeah, we'll sit here.
Just before you leave, because people will leave otherwise.
Yeah, we'll just have some flowers.
Avi ka introduce karo.
Avi, so thanks to Avi for organizing this or booking this room. She is part of the Yuva from George Mason University.
Okay. So let's get started with our. Thank you. We'll be in touch. Yes. You can go from there. I'll request all to come in the front so that we'll get more involved audience. Should we move there? No, we'll just take 2 questions and then we'll go. I think our networking will continue.
You can ask me the questions that were meant for me. This is Munshi, I can answer.
That is true. That's what I'm trying to. So I think the next set of questions that we have is that Munshi, we'll start with you. What is the relationship of Balochistan with Iran?
Yeah, we had the Balochistan province in Iran also. Before the British came in, there was a huge area of Balochistan.
and you have to keep moving back. So that's,
You can hold it.
Yeah. So before the British came, we had a huge area, Balochistan, three parts. So the part in Pakistan is the size of New Mexico, the part in Iran is the size of Nevada, and the part in Afghanistan is the size of West Virginia. So we are focused, our work is focused mainly American Friends of Balochistan. We are focused mainly on Pakistan because that is a bigger problem in our view than any other country. And inside Iran, of course, there is also a Shia theocracy and there are human rights violations of the Baluch people there too. But our focus is on Pakistan and we are fighting, you see, one devil, we cannot fight two devils.
Just a quick one on Baluchis are mostly Shia or Sunni?
I myself an atheist, okay?
Yeah.
I call
Right.
myself,
No,
when I am dead, please bury me with Hindu rites. That will be the best thing to tell Pakistan. But most of the Baluch are Sunni, and there is 1/3, almost 25%, who is Zikri. Zikri are very good because they don't go for Hajj to Saudi Arabia. They don't pray 5 times. And the Pakistani government has tried very hard, just like in Punjab, they declared the Ahmadis as non-Muslims. They tried very hard to get the Zikris declared as non-Muslim. But thankfully, the Baluch people all united and they never allowed the Zikris to be declared non-Muslim. That said, please bear with me. In the last 40 years, Saudi Arabia has pumped in lots and lots of money. They have put in lots in the madrasas. And we have got a huge problem there now in Balochistan. We have got Islamists coming up who were raised in those madrasas.
the next question is that from Indian perspective, the issues and human rights violation in Balochistan, is there a path to integrate with India? Do you think that's a possibility?
You know, I've always been, just as I said earlier, in my view, I think Balochistan, and before in the 30s, Balochistan wanted to become a part of India. But when they saw that the British are resolved to create Pakistan, that was why they said, no, we don't want to become part of Pakistan. And I feel very sad to see how the Pandits have been, pushed out of their homeland. And then my question arises, if the Indian government has been so soft on letting go its own territory, 1/3. See, it's very strange. Pakistan created this Operation Gulmarg, you know when? To take over Kashmir. 1 week after the birth of that illegitimate country. Just 1 week after Pakistan was formed, the military got together, and I'm very surprised because at that time there was a white general who was the army chief of Pakistan. So I'm wondering if the British had a role in this Pakistan takeover of 1/3 of Kashmir, because they decided to go into Kashmir and they took 1/3 of Kashmiri territory.
They were aware of it.
They were aware.
There are documents coming out. In 1990, there were a whole bunch of documents that were basically, in 1990, the British Commonwealth Secretariat released many of the classified documents from 1940s dealing with India-Pakistan partition and beyond. And they're very, very interesting papers. There have been a number of books written about them, mostly by British authors who have selectively picked up the passages that favor Pakistani side of the position. There's only one book which has been written by the Indian side, by one of the retired foreign officers. Unfortunately, that book has been sort of buried in India because that book exposes how ignorant Indian government was in dealing with the bigger powers, United States and Britain, Great Britain, at the time of the partition. And one of the colossal mistakes that was made by Prime Minister Nehru was that even though he was the Prime Minister of India, and even though he was the chair of the Cabinet Committee on Security, which we call CCS now, should have been, But the fact is, at the insistence of Lord Mountbatten, who insisted that he should become the CCS chairman, he gave that position to him, even though he was, he was the Governor General. He had no business being leading the CCS. So what happened was when the war took place between India and Pakistan, and that's why there's clear indications that the generals were both white on both Indian sides, and that they knew exactly what was happening. And part of the reason, and this way you'll find this interesting, part of the reason is because Northwestern Frontier had declared they didn't want to be independent. They wanted to be part of India. And remember, their vote was for India. And their the British aim was that there's a great power conspiracy going on from Russia and all that up there. So we need to have a presence in that section of Gilgit, Balochistan, and Northwest Frontier. And the only way Pakistan was assuring them a military basis in that region before the partition had actually taken place. So as a result of that, what they wanted to do is when the war took place, General Thimaia was a colonel at that time. He wanted actually to have, he could have taken Punch back. He could have actually rolled the line all the way back to the thing. And the CCS, headed by Lord Mountbatten, basically prevented him from doing so. There are the details. There's a classified traffic going on between the High Commissioner in Delhi, Lord Mountbatten, Prime Minister Attlee, and his staff. It's a really a very fascinating period that has been exposed. But as I said, because it puts India's freedom leaders in very poor light as to how they managed the whole Kashmir affair at that time. That book has been buried, and no other Indian author has gone actually to do research on all those papers that are available there. But the fact of the matter is that there was a lot of mistakes made at that time, and one of those mistakes was that India was forced to take the case to the United Nations, and the caveat that Lord Attlee gave back to the Prime Minister was, "I will let you take Punch if you submit this case to the UN." And at the same time, Attlee sends a telegram to Mountbatten saying, "I have no such intention. I want them to take a case to the United Nations, and I will never allow you to go and cross over to the Punch and take over. I want that buffer so that Pakistan stay. There's basically a separation between physical land of India and the land of Pakistan in the Northwest Frontier and Open Book."
Vijay, one last question. I think we have to stop. We have a hard stop at 3:50. Name of the book, do you remember?
Unfortunately, I don't remember the name of the book right now.
Okay.
Or the author.
He was you maybe if you can Google essentially retired Indian officer, British papers on Kashmir, 1990s or something like that. You may get that name.
So next question is that there is option that is discussed among Indian circles of trifurcation of Kashmiri state between Valley, Jammu, and Ladakh. What are your thoughts about it? Are you keeping with it? And then,
well, let me tell you. The fact is that that will definitely help the people from Jammu and Ladakh. Ladakh, I think mentally as well as otherwise has been kind of put on its own, and it's working on its own. It will hurt the cause of Kashmiri Pandits, let me tell you that. Trifurcation is not good news for us. It's good news for Jammu. My own feeling is it's not going to happen. But as I said, if I was a person sitting in Jammu, I wouldn't mind it because that will give me. I don't have to deal then with all the problems of coming from the valley. But I think to keep I would say the pluralism in name only, but keep it alive. I think trifurcation will not be the right thing for the Hindu minorities in Kashmir.
I think if you have any question for Ahmarji, we can take one more question and then he will wrap up. Ashwinji is giving a signal. Any question for Ahmarji? Anyone?
Please ask me how to join American Friends Group.
All right, so let's
He's
do
a
one
great
thing.
guy, by the way. He's a great guy.
So let's facilitate them by Ashwin.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. So thank you for everybody for coming here. I know it was like, weather-wise.
Maybe Chandrasekhar. Something like that, author's name.
Chandrasekhar.
So we have some additional samosas and some snacks.
Anyone going to
Anyone
DC?
Go to the next room.
Anyone going to DC or near metro?
Here, metro.
No, I know you and Shekhar ji and all that. He will drop you at the Silver Line.
Is that convenient for you?
Yeah, it's close to me.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you can go with him.
Yeah, is it? Is it?
What time you will be doing?
Knowledgeable person in this